Welcome back to the Total Focus Podcast. I'm your host, Paul. Our special guest this week is a former Outstanding Teen 2013, a former Teen Nebraska 2017. Samantha Washington is on the show. A young lady who has had to come over a lot of adversity, adopted at a young age, competed in dance, cheerleading, and singing, and then competed for 2 state titles and achieving those goals, and also overcoming several other big accomplishments. If you live in the state of Nebraska, or if you just need someone to look up to, you should stay tuned and listen to Samantha's episode. And welcome to the show.
Hi.
Well, we're so excited to have a former double teen title winners. So Samantha, we really appreciate you coming on the show and having some time to talk to us. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to talk about everything.
So this is something that I find to be unnormal, because usually there's a lot of competition when it comes to the both two systems. Did you just happen to really get a head start in the pageantry when you were younger, and you just happened to go down the path really early, or you let's just, I guess let's, as I always do, let's start at the beginning. What really drawed you? Do you have parents that were in pageantry before? Were you doing singing, dancing? Were you doing something else that really drew you into pageantry?
Yeah, I grew up as a competitive dancer and a competitive cheerleader and a singer. So I always loved being on stage. And I injured myself cheerleading. A piece of my kneecap got chipped off. So I was in a wheelchair for about 6 months, and there was nothing I could do. But I had some friends who competed in pageants, and it was something that I had always been really interested in. So I begged my mom for about 6 months to let me compete, and she finally agreed. And I remember the first pageant I competed in, I didn't place, I didn't do anything, but I ran off stage crying tears of joy because the friends I had met, the time I got to spend on stage, and it was honestly the best weekend of my life. So I just continued from there.
So your younger years, you're more dancing, singing, and doing cheerleading. Now, were you doing competitive cheerleading? Were you doing competitions with a big team, or were you just on a junior elementary school or middle school or high school team?
Yeah, I was a competitive cheerleader for a very long time. And I was on a traveling team well, I was on several teams, but usually we had about 25 to 30 girls and guys. And we got to travel the country and do it. So it was really cool.
So is that really the bulk of your young adolescent then? Is that doing cheerleading then?
Yeah, both cheerleading and dance were my life growing up. And I think it was really such a turning point when I did injure myself and couldn't do it all of a sudden anymore.
Is dance, like, what type of dance are you formally trained in?
So I was also a competitive dancer. So I did probably 10 classes a day or a week doing ballet, tap, hip hop, jazz, contemporary, lyrical. And then I was also on a traveling team with that. So we would travel the country and compete all over.
So where's that drive come from? Was that something that your parents instilled, that they wanted you to be part of a group, or did you actually, as a young child, say I wanted to do dance or cheerleading? Like, how did that come about?
It absolutely came from my family. I was adopted into a family of very, very driven people. My dad was a professional football player in the 90s, and my older sister was always involved in dance and things like that. So from the time I could walk, I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that because my sister was doing it. So they said, okay, when you're old enough to, we'll put you in. So when I turned 2, I started dancing, and I didn't stop until I was 20.
Okay. And when you say your sister, is she older?
Yes, yeah,
Is she also adopted too, or is she?
she's not. I'm the only one who's adopted into my family, but she's my older sister. We're about 5 years apart.
So was it more like in your young years that you were competing with her then?
Yes and no, only in my own mind.
Okay.
I always wanted to be just like her, and we were very similar people growing up. And it's kind of funny because as she got older, she moved to New York and she's now a boxer, which is something I could never do in a million years. So we kind of started on the same path and went our own ways.
Um, you when you say boxer, is she
Hmm.
competitive? I mean, is she doing
Yeah.
it for? Okay. So
She's
is she
awesome. She went to the Olympic trials, which was super cool.
okay? So okay,
Yeah.
awesome. So is she also competing now in women? Do they have the women's equivalent to the Golden Gloves? The Golden Gloves? Then do you?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
They
So
do. She's the New York champion for the Golden Gloves.
oh okay. So Paul, my sister is feminist. Oh my god. So is that do you feel that because you have all your own achievements that you feel that you're on equal footing with her because it seems like this family that you're adopted into is very competitive.
Yeah, they are very competitive. I do. I feel like it's a special thing that her and I have such different things that we're interested in, and yet we support each other. We do it together. We cheer each other on in everything. So I do feel like we're on equal footing, but it's really, really cool to watch her succeed and go for her new dreams.
So your young year consists of dancing, singing, and cheerleading.
Hmm.
Did you did you also go to nationals and compete at worlds or like how did those younger years go?
And dance, we did. We went everywhere, all the nationals we could. In cheer, because it was a newer gym, we didn't go to worlds. But I started coaching for my former cheer gym. I coached their special needs cheer team for a while, and we got to take them to worlds where they could perform and got to be on ESPN. And it was the coolest thing I think I've ever done in my whole entire life.
I have a close friend that competed in worlds several times, and
Really?
she expressed that it was the best experience. So your
It's
comment,
so cool.
yeah. Um, now I'm not an expert when it comes to the professional cheering. Is
Mhm.
worlds the equivalent to every major championship? Is that the top
Yes.
title?
So worlds, you'll have people coming from different countries. I think we had a team from China, a team from Germany, people coming from all over to compete for the top title in the world. And it's in Orlando, Florida, which is where I live now. So I often get to go watch it, which is super fun.
Well, are both of your titles in Nebraska?
Yes, they are.
So was the is your adopted family originally from Nebraska then?
Yes. Yep.
So
I'm Nebraskan born and raised.
okay. So how do you like are you did you enjoy that middle America growing up because going to Florida is a totally different
Yeah.
environment.
I did. I loved it. It was a really cool place. I'm from Lincoln, where it's both a small town and a big city, so you kind of know everyone. And growing up here was the best thing ever. I couldn't ask to be anywhere else. Florida is so different. It's so large, but I've made friends there who have become my family. So it's really cool to have a little bit of both.
So now we have a really good idea of where you started from. So you competed both in USA and America, and
Mhm.
you excelled, and you won both titles as a team, which is very very hard because the team,
Thank you.
it's not like congratulations, welcome.
Thank you.
um, I sometimes I don't know how to like judge not judge is not the right word like pre-forecast like who the winner is going to be. When it comes to the Miz, you know who that person's going to be because it, they're consistent. They've been in the system a long time. It's like trying to pick who's going to win a championship in the minor leagues. Like there's so many variables. So, what do you think that allowed you to excel so quickly as a young competitor in the pageant world as a teen that allowed you to adapt into both systems?
Well, definitely my dance training for the Outstanding Teen organization and the fact that I'd just been so used to being on stage. I was the youngest girl in the competition that year, so I was not expecting to win at all. but it was really cool. And in USA, I tried multiple times to be Miss Nebraska Teen USA. I competed twice, and the first time I made top 12, and I walked off pretty disheartened. But a lot about it was my mental state changed from that first year to that second year. Of it's my last year to compete. I'm going to go do everything I can. I'm going to train as hard as I can, and whatever happens is going to happen. And I think that was the one thing that year that changed so much in me that maybe some other girls struggled with. Because as a teen, it's really difficult to separate the judges hating you by not choosing you to it just wasn't your year and it's just not your time.
Well, you also have the other burden of not looking too old for teen too.
Yeah.
So, and I just spent a whole conversation talking to Taylor, and Taylor explained to me, and for our listeners that haven't been able to listen, Taylor is one of her sister queens from Maryland who also held a title in teen in 2017. And Taylor really explained to me that you guys have an overwhelming burden to bear when it comes to not looking too much like an adult.
Yes.
So, is that something that was more crucial in your later years competing in USA than competing younger in 2013 for America?
Yes. So it's interesting because Taylor is one of my best friends, and we're a week apart in age. Her, me, and Florida were the three oldest at nationals that year. We were 19, and there were girls who were 14 years old. So it was definitely trying to make yourself look younger and trying to make yourself look different than you did, which was difficult. But also, sometimes our maturity played to our strength. But in the American system, like I said, I was one of the youngest girls, and I was 14 competing against girls who were 18 and 19. And it was hard because people kept saying, "Oh, you're too young, you're too young," but then I was too old. So really, at one point, you just have to throw your hands up and say it's either going to happen or it's not. But you have to be yourself in every way.
Well, is that a advice that you would give to anyone, that you need to be authentic? Or
Yes, absolutely.
um competing in both those systems such a young age, is there anything that, like, some insight that you have really learned that is really beneficial that you should pass on, that anyone who's listening, they should understand what those two systems really comprise of?
Yes. So the one thing about the two systems is while they're very different and they're going to be looking for different things, overall, they're both going to be looking for someone who is authentically themselves, someone who is a teen. I mean, you may not look like it, but someone who is a teen and just likes to be themselves and go have fun and can express that and articulate that to each of the judges. That was the common thread throughout it all, was that they were looking for a representative who could go to either Miss Teen USA or Miss America's Outstanding Teen and represent your state. So for me, Nebraska, the good life in every sense of the word.
Well, to me, it's clear why you were picked twice. You're
Oh,
very
thank you.
no, I mean, you're a very elegant speaker.
Thank you.
Sometimes, um, sometimes it's what you bring to the table, but I can tell by just how it's so easily for you to flow off questions and everything, that the interview must have been somewhere where you excelled at.
It wasn't always my strongest. It takes a lot of practice, but I love it more and more now. I've been lucky to work with a lot of people who have helped me put my words and my crazy brain into a nice flowing sentence. Especially growing up, I was very loud and outgoing and didn't know how to word things correctly, but it's something you learn with age too. So sometimes that's why being an older teen can help you.
So, looking at the America system, do you were you thankful that you had the opportunity to experience? Well, I take that back because I apologize. From what I'm aware of, the teen system is completely different ownership
Mhm.
than so that's not a fair question. But did
Okay.
you did you did you enjoy the American system competition, because it's supposed to mimic what the original Miss America organization, which is not doing the same competition anymore. So, did you enjoy that style of
Yeah.
competition, I guess is what.
I loved it. It was the flow and the formation were semi-similar to the old Miss America. But I loved it. I loved being there. We were there for 2 weeks in Orlando. And I mean, in that time, you just become best friends with everybody. You kind of have to because you're stuck together for a while. And it was a little hard being 14, being without my mom for the first time. But I loved it. The chaperones, the people, they take care of you. They love you like you're their own child for those 2 weeks. So it was really wonderful to make those connections, have those friends, and be on that stage.
So, from what I'm aware of, the Outstanding Teen organization has been doing that competition in Orlando for almost its entire existence.
Hmm.
Is that what
Yeah,
you do? You
it
think
has been.
as a teen that's just a great location because it's such a open environment for young people with the theme parks and you
Hmm.
know
Yeah, I love it there. We got to go to SeaWorld, which was pretty fun.
that's cool.
The one thing about Orlando is the rain is just crazy. But it's fun because the Miss also get to come in, support their sisters, and go to Disney. And I work at Disney now, so I've got to meet a lot of the Miss America contestants before they competed as they came to meet the characters and stuff. So I do. I think it's a great place for a pageant to take place. It's fun for the whole family who has to spend 2 weeks there. They don't have to do nothing the whole time. And there's just so much to do. The weather's wonderful. I mean, except for the humidity for your hair. It's the worst, but you get used to it.
Do you think anything from that particular competition has really made an impact that still leads to you today? Like, do you?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
It
No.
was my first time being by myself. And I was really nervous. I was really scared, but one, it opened me up to meeting new people. I was worried about these girls, thought of them as my competition. And I realized you're really only competing against yourself. And if that's all you worry about during that week, you are going to have no experience at the end of it, especially if you don't win. So that was a huge thing for me. And then when getting ready to go to Miss Teen USA, I didn't need anything because I was already prepared. I'd already done it before. So that was really fun. I could initially just get there and start having fun with my friends, who are now my best friends in the whole entire world. I love them more than anything. So I think that really opened me up to everything and to this new experience all around.
If we had 13 is not the height of what social media is now. If social
Hmm.
media was as um prevalent as it was in 17, do you think you would have as strong a connection with your America teens as you do with USA, or is there just something special about the USA group? Taylor made a specific comment that she just has a connection with her
Hmm.
USA group that she doesn't know how to explain. It's just that you guys are so
Yeah.
special.
And I love my MAOT sisters, and I still talk to them all the time. I think definitely if social media was a bigger presence for us, we would be closer. I also think if I was older, we would be a bit closer because I was so far in age range from those girls, but I still love them and talk to them at least once a week. But my Teen USA sisters and I, we have a special connection because we spent most of our experience in a room together doing nothing but making our own fun. So at this point, we're traveling to see each other all of the time as often as we can. And, we just left one of our best friends' weddings a week ago and we're already missing each other. Taylor and I FaceTime like every other day. It's just something different. We're also similar in age, we're also similar in experiences. So it brought us that much closer.
And that's on the USA side.
Yes.
So your choice to compete for USA, how did
Mhm.
that come about? Because you competed in America, you did your reign. We should probably address how your year went. Like, what was that experience like? So going to a Miss Outstanding Teen sounds like you had an incredible experience. But how was
Yeah.
your entire year as Miss Outstanding Teen Nebraska? So how did
Yeah. It was great. I loved it. I got to explore parts of the state that I didn't even know existed. I got to meet people from everywhere, from every walk of life. So it was definitely my first experience at being a state title holder, and it prepared me for USA. It was again a little difficult because I was 14 years old and had to have my mom travel with me everywhere. But it prepared me for what hopefully being a national title holder would be like one day, and hopefully another state title holder. So I loved every second of it. I wish I would have done more. I just was too young and inexperienced and didn't know what I could do for my state until I became Nebraska Teen USA.
Were you going into it unaware of the year commitment of like obligations that you'd have to do every single week or every single month? Like, was
Yes,
that
I
not
agree it
something?
was.
No, go. Sorry.
You're fine. I was in high school at the time. I was on my high school show choir, my high school's dance team. I was a competitive dancer. I was a singer. I every single weekend would go from a Miss Nebraska's Outstanding Teen event to a show choir competition, to a dance competition, to a dance team competition, or to dance at a football game or something. So it was definitely the busiest year of my life. And if I could go back, I would make a few choices and cut out a few things or say no to doing this or that. But I'm kind of glad I did it all because I will never forget that year because of all that I did.
So you actually didn't really compromise any of your other commitments then?
No, I definitely tried not to.
Is that something that was something that you were trying to strive for, or did your parents didn't, they were willing to drive you if you were willing to go, is basically.
It was all me. I, was one of those people who was like, I can't let down this team or this team. I have to be here for this person or do this. I'm the type of person who can't say no to anything, but I couldn't have done it if it weren't for my mother driving me everywhere. She was such a trooper throughout that year. There was one weekend where we had to drive from Kearney, Nebraska to North Platte, which is about 4 hours, back to Lincoln, which is another 3 hours. And I'm pretty sure this was all in the span of one day. And she did it all, and she didn't complain once. So it's all thanks to her.
I just wanted to take 1 second from this great interview and talk about our sponsor of the week, Mid-Atlantic Video and Photography Productions. No matter if you're planning a wedding, a special event, or you just need an amazing headshot, they are the team to get the job done. You can reach out to them at 443-422-3830. Again, that's 443-422-3830. Or you can just go right to their website at mavpp.com. Now let's get right back to the show and listen to this great interview. So it sounds like your mom really was dedicated. Was your dad the retired NFL player? Did he play a role as well in that, or was it? I know when it comes to pageantry, it's more of like a mother-daughter thing. But how did your dad play a role in that?
My dad wasn't too involved in it. My dad is, my parents are divorced. So my dad was like, I support you. You do what you have to do. Let me know if you need me, but I'm kind of out. My mom also she loves doing it. She loved being the dance mom or the cheer mom. And so she was very supportive and super, super hands-on, even to this day, with everything that I do.
Do you think that you need that support if you're going to win a state title? Is it hard to not have that support?
It is. There's a lot of women who are strong enough to do it on their own, and I'd like to think that I am, but that support just means so much, and it's the difference in your mental state when going into the pageant, especially.
So now that you competed in your Miss America competitions, you finished your obligation for your year. What was the thought plan? Because did you a lot of girls say, okay, well, I'm America for life. They don't even consider it. What was your initial thought, the idea to be turned to the other side and do? Was it just that let's try both competitions that both have a TV contract, and this is another glamorous one? What was your thought at that point? Because there's a 5-year gap, and you competed for 2 years at USA, and you did it until your until the end of your you won your last year of allegation.
Yes.
I just messed that up. Whatever. You competed until you weren't eligible. There we go. Okay.
There you go. Yeah,
So
I got to watch Miss USA, Nebraska USA, when I was current Miss Nebraska's Outstanding Teen. And I just sat there and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so different, but what a wonderful organization. And it was really cool because I got to watch one of my now friends, Amanda Soltero, win. And I got to watch her reign. And she did so much for one of her organizations, which is called Sammy's Superheroes, which helps children with pediatric cancer. So watching her do that, I thought, wow, it's really not that different at all. Like while on stage, it may be different. Backstage, they all wear the crown, they all do whatever, but they still have these organizations that they're super passionate about, and they're still going for it and doing everything that they can for the people around them and their community. So while it's a little bit more glamorous, it's still behind the stage. They're still getting down and dirty and doing everything they need to do. So that kind of made me think, wow, maybe this is something I could do too. In my first year competing, I was just really like, maybe this isn't for me. But I became so close with the staff of our directors. So we're called VAMBRO. So we have 6 states in our USA organization. And they were so welcoming. They became my family. And that next year I came back and I don't know what it was. I was just like, I have nothing to lose. Let's just do this. And I won teen in 2017.
Well, clearly, hard work pays off. So,
Yeah.
and do you feel overwhelmed or like a complete weight was taken off of you when you did win eventually? Like, did you have no stress going into that last competition? Like, what was that
Mm-hmm.
experience?
So it was interesting because I set a goal for myself and I said, I want to make top 5 this year. Whatever happens after that, I'm good. I'm done. I did it. I'm proud of myself. So I think that alone, setting that goal and knowing that as long as I made myself proud and I did everything I could have done to win that title, it made me feel so free. So when I got into top 5, I remember running off stage into the arms of one of our staff members. Her name's Karen Elliott, and she's the greatest woman in the whole entire world. And I started crying. And she said, don't cry, don't cry. I said, no, I'm just so thankful. And I know whatever happens right now, I'm so proud of myself. And I think after that, it just, something felt right and something felt different. And that's how I kind of like to go into pageants now. Whatever is going to happen, it's either for me or it isn't. And there's nothing you can do about that besides prepare to the best of your abilities.
Now, in prior year in
Mm-hmm.
16, did you not make top 5?
I didn't. I made top 12.
Okay. So that really was just a personal achievement that
Mm-hmm.
making. Now in Nebraska, do they go from 12 to 5 because of the
Yes.
okay.
Mhm.
So they have a smaller field then.
They do. So we usually that year, I believe the year I won, we had 25 girls. But it's interesting because in Nebraska, you could have 25 girls, or the year Sarah Rose Summers, who became Miss USA, won, she competed against 7 girls. So it's kind of crazy to see how that works each year.
Well, 7 is a little bit unusual, I would have to say,
Yeah.
but 25 is a good I mean,
Yeah.
you should be proud that you were, I mean, I look at it as a competition and as a sport,
Mhm.
and you beat 24 other people. So
Oh, thank
that's
you.
yeah. I mean, I mean, life is there are winners and losers, and
Mhm.
I know people don't like to be that way, but it is that way. So,
I
um,
mean, it depends too for me, especially when I competed in Nebraska USA last year and I got second runner up. So for me, I always felt like there's winning and there's losing, and I feel like you only lose in your attitude. So I know in 2016 I lost so bad. I ran off stage crying. It was horrible. That was my losing moment.
so you did Ms. last year then
Uh-huh.
too,
Yes.
and then you also compete. So you didn't. Okay, you're talking about your teen. So
Yeah.
you felt that doing finishing in 12th in 2017 in teen was a horrible experience
Well,
because you had.
I did it first and then I looked back on it. I was, young. I was 16 years old, 17, and I had worked really, really hard and I didn't win. And that was my first experience being like, wow, this really didn't happen. What am I going to do next? And I was a sore loser. And, that happens, especially when you're young and you don't know how to handle it correctly. So that next year, I told myself, hey, if I don't do it this year, if it's not for me, I'm going to be gracious for what I get because a lot of girls didn't even make top 12, and you have to feel lucky that you did.
Well, I commend you for admitting that you were being a little selfish there, because
Thank you.
um, sometimes you guys aren't really fair to call out your own
Mm-hmm.
faults. So I
Yeah.
do appreciate that they're like, well, you know, I could have been better. So that it shows
Thank you.
a mark of maturity there. So it shows that no matter whatever adversities you have in life, that you're willing to um, learn to get better. So is that your outlook now, that
Yeah,
you're always
it
trying to?
absolutely is. I've always felt that every failure is a setup for something to be better. So each year that I compete in the Nebraska USA system, I learn what I did wrong and I move on from it because I'm lucky that I got to even get as far as I did, especially.
Well, I would hope that we could instill that into to every uh, pageantry young lady too, because I would I'd have to say that your attitude, unfortunately, is not the norm. So
Thank you.
no, and I appreciate that because you're taking, now you've had a lot of success too, so you have that outlook, but you fully admitted that you had a hard time. So
Hmm.
I think that if someone hears this and they hear that, even yourself um, had doubt and fear behind, and um, is a really thing that some people would be shocked about. Or do you feel that just makes you human, or do you feel that is just that's just normal, or like like how do you explain that?
So I feel that it definitely being disappointed is a part of life, and that's the most human emotion we can feel, especially in pageants where um, only one girl can win, and we all bust our butts, sometimes for a year, sometimes for 2 years, just to be on that stage for that one moment and just for that one thing. But I think for me it really became easier when I saw the friendships that I was making. It was easier to walk away and say, how can I say I lost when I gained all of this? And I think that makes it easier to come back the next year and just be more excited about it every time. But I mean, each girl who gets overly disappointed about their placement or about what they do in a pageant, I think I would encourage everyone to look back and think about what you did gain first and foremost, and then what could you improve on, and then go back and do it the next year.
So how did your experience at USA Teen go? So you guys had your state pageant
Mhm.
in Arizona, is that correct?
Yes, yeah. It
So
was fun. It was very warm. We the one thing I would say that was a little hard for all of us was we were expecting all these activities and all this fun stuff that we were going to be doing and all these places we were going to be taken and shown around Arizona. We didn't get that, which was hard at first, but I think each and every girl can agree that we're all grateful for that because it's how we became best friends.
oh, well, that's interesting. So
Yeah.
they told you guys that the group was going to do group outings, and then they limited it to small groups of people. Is that what
A
happened?
little bit. We just assumed because in previous years, every year for the pageant, girls get to go out and explore the city that they're there for. So it was kind of hard. We didn't get to see any Arizona. We didn't get to do whatever. We were basically just there doing rehearsals and then sitting in the room and waiting for more rehearsals, which was a little stressful. But again, we made our own fun and we loved every second of it.
And you were the first teen group in USA after the Trump sale. So, and you guys were the first year with IGM. So,
Yes.
did you did you did it seem a little? I mean, just by that comment, it sounds like, did you feel like things were a little disorganized?
I just felt like everything was a little bit in transition, but Paula Shugart, the MUO president, is a wonderful person who tried to do everything she could to make sure that we were getting the most out of our experience and having a good time. And so we did have one welcome party where we just danced all night and had the best time. And Paula was there with us, right alongside us. So it was really cool to be able to spend that one-on-one time with her. But everything was a little bit in transition, a little bit up in the air, which I completely understand. That happens.
And no, and I want to make it absolutely clear. The question wasn't to get you in trouble or anything like that.
Oh,
And
of
I want,
course.
and
You're
I
fine.
also like, I understand that there are future competitions that you might. So I want to make sure that USA knows that she in no way was upset. I was curious
Oh
to
no.
know, just curious to know how that year went because
Yes.
Taylor expressed like it was so incredible, and everything, but
Mhm.
you have a different experience because you already competed in America. So it's curious to know how you felt the difference in the two went, and it sounds like you were a little bit disappointed because from previous years. So it seems like you were really excited to do more stuff, and then there was a letdown. But it seems like it was also a benefit because you had
Mhm.
the opportunity to build that friendship that sounds
Yeah.
like was more important.
Especially looking back, I wouldn't trade it for anything, my experience, because it is why my friends and I travel to see each other, why we talk literally every single day. So I'm definitely grateful, and I wouldn't have changed that because I love them, and now we're very, very close.
How did the actual year of service go? Because the year of service with as a in 2013 was really you and your mom traveling the state. So after the competition, um, how did that year of service go? Like now that you knew what your obligations were, I
Hmm.
assume what was your platform for your USA year?
My platform is adoption because
Okay.
I'm adopted. So it was really cool because I loved my year more than anything. I was still a freshman in college at the time, and I was still involved in my university show choir. So it was still very busy, but I knew that going into it, and I assumed the risk, and I am so glad I did. But yeah, we got to travel a lot. I got to travel and speak about adoption, not only in my state, but also all over the country. And that's the one thing about the Miss Universe organization that is so lovely is they provide so many opportunities for you to travel, get to meet people from all over the world, all over the country, and that was really cool.
Did you still have those long drive gaps as well? And you're saying that you didn't have cheerleading, you didn't have dance requirements, but you were in a big choir group then for
Mm-hmm.
college. So
Yeah, a
you're a
traveling
balance.
choir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, it was a traveling choir. Okay, so
Uh
you
huh.
also
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, it sounds like a little drama there. Um,
A lot of traveling.
okay, okay. Um, so how did that balance out? Like, were you basically then on the road the entire time? I know one of my colleagues, who was a double queen back to back, she lived out of her car. So that year of service in 17, were you just living out of your car then? Was that the optimate way to do it? And basically, just going back to your dorm to sleep?
That's pretty much what it was. I a lot of times was also living in an airport basically because I was flying so much. But my roommate, my freshman roommate, who I love more than anything, she'll tell you, I never saw you freshman year because I was just gone everywhere. But again, I love that. I was tired during that whole year, but I mean, I can sleep now, so it's fine.
So the choir was not a state choir then. Sounds because you said about flying because you have state requirements, you have state obligations to the state for your title, but
Hmm.
are you flying out of the state for the choir?
I mostly flew for the Miss Universe organization. So I
Oh,
got to go to New York a few times. I got to go to
wow.
Austin, Texas, Houston, oh, so many other places. But for my choir, it was a lot of driving and living out of my car for that.
So was that something that was unexpected, doing a year of service with America? Because did you have those experiences where you were flying all over the place?
It was definitely different because we didn't get to do that with America. We didn't get to travel all these times and make friends with the girls before we met them. So it was unexpected, but I was prepared for it because I love to fly and I love to travel. So it was something I was just ready to do.
Um, what's your idea on that? Like, is that something that, like, if you retro, now as an adult, but
Mhm.
would you have rather just been a USA girl? Because that sounds like the really cool things, like you get to travel all over the place, and they invite you places. Was that the really cool thing, or do you like the environment that because it's more about community service and not.
Yeah, I love doing both. Because with Miss America, it was really cool because I got to explore more parts of my state. And again, like parts I never knew existed, I never would have been to had it not been for the crown. So I got to learn a lot more about and fall in love with my state a little bit more, which then transitioned to being Miss Nebraska USA or Teen USA. I was already so in love with my state. So the fact that I got to wear Nebraska across my chest on the Teen USA stage because of the Miss America organization was so beautiful to me. I mean, it brought me to tears. You should see my crowning photos. They're very bad. But I also love that I got to travel and tell everyone about my state and about these parts that I learned about because of my year with the America system. So they both went hand in hand, which was really wonderful.
So do you think that you wouldn't have been prepared or even as good of a state representative if it wasn't for your years of America preparing you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I am someone who always just kind of stayed in my little corner of my state. And I think that I got to learn a lot more about different types of people that inhabit my state. And, I learned about farmers, I learned about ranchers, which is something that I never see here. I learned about small business people in Lincoln and everywhere. So it definitely made me love my state more and opened my eyes more to it and made me a better title holder in turn.
Okay. So would it be easy, or would it be, just to sum it up, that if you want to learn more about your state and what it comprised of, and you want to represent that title, that you should probably do America. And then if you want to travel the world representing your state, then America. Then I'm sorry, I just flipped that.
You're right.
If you want to learn more and be really super involved in your state, you do America with your state. And then if you want to travel the world representing your state, you do USA. Is that because that's what I'm hearing? Am I?
Yeah, that's a fair thing. That was the path I chose to take. A lot of people don't, and that's fine. A lot of people know so much about their state already and love it. But if you really want to love your state, especially Nebraska, just get in a car and drive, honestly. It's a great way to do it. But the Miss America organization, their state title holder is given a car for the year that she gets to use to just drive her state and learn more about it. And she has obligations from every corner of Nebraska. So I think that really helps you open your eyes to a lot, and then when you go into something else, you're just that much more prepared for it. So just get in your car and drive to learn a little bit more about your state before you're ready to represent it. I think that's the coolest thing you can do.
Well, I absolutely agree that you should know more about your state going in. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, that's just like, if you're going for an interview for Microsoft, you should read more about what Microsoft comprised of, the
Yeah.
company. I mean, that's just good 101. So you kind of glossed over that because some states don't. So for what pageant system, and is it for both that get the privilege of a car? So is it America or USA?
So Miss America, Miss Nebraska America, they gift their Miss Nebraska title holder with a car every year for her to travel and learn more about her state. But we're very, very lucky this year because in the Miss Nebraska USA organization, we have a new partner who is so wonderful that they are donating a car for the Miss Nebraska USA to be able to do the same thing, which I just think is the coolest thing ever. And we're very lucky to have them.
That is that is awesome, because some
Right,
states
yeah.
don't. Seriously, some states don't even have those privileges. I
Hmm.
live in Maryland. Maryland doesn't get those privileges. So kudos for your sponsor team to really get that. That's a huge
Yeah,
win.
it's
Um,
awesome.
I know my colleague put over 200,000 miles on her car. So, in the course of
Wow.
2 years. So doing national title,
But
state
go her
title.
for being a good title holder. I love that.
Yes. She had back-to-back reigns in both
Mhm.
America and USA as
I know who you're talking about.
yes.
Yeah. She
So
was
for
yeah.
her to you know not for you for you not to have to put that mile on your own car, that's awesome.
Mhm.
So
It helps a lot.
absolutely. I just wanted to take one extra second and talk about our sponsor of the week, Mid-Atlantic Video and Photography Production. No matter if you're planning a wedding and you need a wedding videographer, you're doing a music video, or doing a commercial, they are the team to get the job done. You can reach out to them at 443-422-3830. Again, that's 443-422-3830. Or you can go right to their website at mavpp.com. Now let's get right back to this great interview. To sum up your two big experiences, both as a title holder for USA and America, what was the thing that really changed you, and that you think that doing pageantry is so important as a young age? Because doing it when you're older is totally different than doing as a teen. So what really has changed your life and made you who you are because of the pageants?
Yeah, starting pageants at a young age, I was 12, 11 when I started. It definitely shapes you as a person. So, in terms of being able to speak in front of large crowds, I could never do that. It helps you with every aspect of life. Like, I interviewed for my dream job and I got it because of pageants. So, I think that starting at a young age changes who you are for the better, and shapes you into a person that you had always kind of hoped you wanted to be, because you have these positive role models that you're watching that come with the titles before you. And it's really cool to watch them do chase their dreams, one, to do all these wonderful things for the community, and to three, see their passion for things. It kind of instills that in you too.
So this is the part of the show where I let you take over the show and really point out anything that we haven't talked about, or um, bring up anything. So, is there anything going on currently that is really important that we should put a spotlight on? I know that your years of service, you focused on adoption because of
Mhm.
your background in adoption. Is there any statistics that, or anything that's important when it comes to adoption? I know that the former during Miss America this year, the young lady who finished first runner up second was really pushing adoption, and I know it's
Mhm.
really important. So, is there anything else that is going on that we should really put a spotlight on?
Yeah, so adoption is obviously something that's huge to me, because if it weren't for adoption, I would not be where I am today. And I actually found my biological siblings, which is kind
Oh
of funny.
wow!
I found them on Facebook, and they pointed out where I would have been. So I think that this year I'm preparing to compete in Miss Nebraska USA. It's really important for me to not only share my story and talk about adoption, and hopefully as the next Miss Nebraska USA, talk to children in foster care and explain. That their forever family is waiting for them. But it's also important for me to share my siblings' stories. They grew up in and out of foster care. They grew up on the streets in gangs, and especially my big brother. He's my best friend, and he just changed his life, and I'm so proud of him. I think it's important to tell kids his story and his message of, no matter where you come from, no matter what circumstances life throws at you, that does not define you and will not turn you into the person that you are. So, and not only that, but something that I've also really learned to love is working with children. So I work at Disney, where I get to work with an organization called Give Kids the World, which is pairs up with the Children's Miracle Network hospitals and Make a Wish, and children get to come and they get to spend their own time in this village, where they get to act like nothing's going on in their lives and just be children for a little bit. So I'm really excited to hopefully run around my state and the country and talk about that a lot, because it's something that's changed in my life thanks to my job and thanks to pageantry.
That's such a great organization in Orlando
Yeah,
because
awesome.
if you're not, if our listeners aren't really aware of, the kids get to come in. They built this entire hotel
Hmm.
complex that is designed just for kids. It's all paid for. The families come in. They get a free trip to the Orlando area, and they're treated. It's all kid oriented, and it's for anyone that has an illness.
Yeah,
It's an incredible. It's and the only way you get to go there is that you um are recovering or have an illness. So
yeah.
you're all people of like minds and have the same thing. So you feel very at home. You feel
Hmm.
that. I mean, it's an incredible experience. So it's not like you're going to be surrounded by people going on vacation or, um, you know, you guys are all of like mind. So it's really, I think it's just an incredible experience, especially if you're going through such a horrible experience
Yeah.
like pediatric cancer
Hmm.
or something at a young age.
And it makes me
Um,
really happy that you know about it. I love that. That's awesome.
well, it's important that we continue to let people know about that because
Hmm.
um, I don't think people understand how crucial it is to have the ability to start your life off with no problems, being
Yeah.
healthy, not having cancer, not
Hmm.
having any lung issues, not having, the benefits that we have, and that there are kids that are sick and they're 5, 10 years old and they don't know anything but laying in a bed, and
Yeah,
that's such a
exactly.
horrible experience. Or you know God forbid you lose all your hair. And
Hmm.
it's a shame that we we don't honor, like being an adult. It's not, it's horrible, but it's really horrible because if you're a kid, then that's the only thing you've ever experienced. And if you
Exactly.
do die, you know,
Hmm.
then your only experience is trauma. So
Yeah.
that's not a good life. So,
That's why I love it there. It's so cool to work there and see children come to meet their favorite Disney character or to have tea or do whatever. And it's like nothing's wrong. It's like they have zero problems all of a sudden. And to watch their parents or their families witness that, I mean, I'm going to start crying because it's just the coolest thing you could ever do. And I've met, people who have, I met a 3-year-old girl who has 2 months left to live. And it was really hard to hear that. But then her parents being like, well, this is going to be her memory. This is going to be the thing that we'll always remember too. We'll always remember her smile right here. And it's hard because you know what they're going through, but for a split second, it's almost like none of it is happening.
mhm. So you're a Disney employee, right? But
Yes, I
are you working on that hotel's property to do meet and greets, or they actually coming?
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't even
Mhm.
work. You don't actually work on property. Then you're working directly with that organization.
So I do both.
Oh, you do both.
Disney's really lucky in that we have a special shift where we get to bring in a few fun characters to meet some of the kids when they first arrive. So I got to go there with my good friend Belle and read some books to kids and just hang out with them, spend some time letting them be normal children. And then I also work on Disney property too, but that's my favorite shift in the whole entire world. And any chance I get to do it, I'm jumping on it immediately.
And they come in weekly, right? Or do they
Mhm.
or
Yeah,
so is
twice a week
oh
on Mondays and Thursdays.
so you basically are assigned there on those days to go and greet the kids then.
If I'm lucky, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Is is there a lot of cast members that are up for that task? Because it sounds like it could also be emotionally draining too. So
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, the first time I got pulled there, I had no idea where I was going. I didn't know what this was. And that's where I met that little girl. And I met her twice in the same day, once with my friend Pluto and then once by myself, as myself. And I had no idea what I was going into. And it's definitely something that get home and you just have to sit there and stare at a wall for a while and be like, wow, okay, I have to process this. But it changes you so much. And it got to a point where I worked with another organization, the Princess America Foundation or Princess America pageant, where I got to go back and I got to volunteer again. So it's really cool because yes, it's something that changes you entirely and something that you really have to be mentally, physically, and emotionally prepared for. But it's the greatest kind of change.
Well, I will pray, and I'm sure you will too, that you won't
Absolutely.
have to go there as many because there won't be as many kids inflicted with those diseases.
That's
And
the hope.
yeah, and and I hope that the goodness that you're doing will only resonate and roll out into other people that when they're cured, they'll do the same. So,
Yeah.
um,
One thing that's also really cool about the Miss Nebraska USA organization, it's kind of cool how my job goes hand in hand with pageants, is that they work with an organization called Warriors for Ross, which helps donate money to children with pediatric cancer. And Karen Elliott, again, one of our fabulous workers for the Vambros organization, she started it because her grandson had pediatric cancer and passed away from it, unfortunately. But she dedicated her life to make sure that no child ever has to go through the same type of thing again. So, with the Miss Nebraska USA organization, Oklahoma, Kansas, there's like 6 of us. Every single year at our pageant, we work to donate money, and we, on average, throughout the year, can donate about $66,000 to different families around the country to help them with those bills and help take away just a little bit of their pain. And I've got to meet some of those kids at Give Kids the World, which is so cool to see the money at work, seeing these kids hopefully starting to feel better, and then getting to meet them and see how everything's been going.
well, I mean, if they make the right choice and they do pick you to be Miss Ms. Nebraska this time, I think
Thank you.
that they'll have an incredible title holder to
Oh, thank
represent
you.
their
That's so
state.
sweet.
So no, and I think that I honestly think that um, where the pageantry landscape is, that USA is definitely the organization that you can definitely make the most impact in.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I don't think that um, taking away the power that social media has and the entertainment world has, and I think that USA still has that. There's some kind of special spark that when you say I'm Miss USA, um,
Mhm.
it just has. So I really hope that you achieve that, and I hope that
Thank
this
you.
is your year because there's something special about that title.
There
It's
really
like
is.
winning. No, it is. It's just like winning the Super Bowl or the World Series. When you say that you are that title holder, there's a huge. It's like having the Medal of Honor. It's a special. It's a small group.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
as
is.
they
There's
do
something
this,
so beautiful
right?
about it.
I know. I mean, as they do the statistic, less women win the USA crown than compete in for the World Series
Yeah,
or the Super Bowl. So it's a
it's
very
true.
very elite crowd.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think is your biggest obstacle? Coming into this competition. Um, do you know what your field is like? Is it also a small group of girls, or is it a pretty big group of girls, or it
Yeah,
has nothing to
this
do
year
with
we have
numbers, or
great girls. We have maybe 15 girls, but the quality is insane. So, whoever takes home the title in, oh gosh, 9 days is definitely so worthy. I'm lucky to be really good friends with a lot of them. And we have 2 girls coming in who are former Miss Nebraska America. So, there's 3 of us from the America system who are back and ready to try for another title. But yeah, so I think my biggest obstacle is just going to be staying focused because I am going to be having so much fun with my friends and my roommate for the week, who I'm so excited to spend time with. She took over the Miss Nebraska USA reign after Sarah Summers won Miss USA. So I'm just excited. I'm just ready. I feel like I've done everything I can, and we'll find out what happens.
oh, that's a good thing. So
Yeah.
the young lady that had to fulfill to be Miss Nebraska, her
Mhm.
year of eligibility isn't wiped. She actually gets to come back and compete.
Yeah.
Oh,
She gets
okay.
to compete for one more year. Yes,
Oh,
and I'm so excited to spend that time with her. Her name's
that's
Free
awesome.
Coffee, and she's the best.
Do you feel that is unique that she has that experience? Do you think there's something that she has? Do you have to prepare more because she's already had that year of experience, or do you feel that the 2 years as experience being teen title holders put you on the same experience level?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because Bree and I talk like every day, and we were saying the whole thing here at the end of it all is that her and I have nothing to lose. We've already held a title for Vambros. We already know the organization in and out. We know how the pageant weekend works. So we've definitely been kind of working together in this because we are such good friends. And I think no matter what happens at the end of this, we're just going to be cheering for each other.
Well, I mean, I to be honest, I really think a pageant is like a baseball game.
Yeah.
Um, Primarily it's the portion where you're batting because you have to, as a baseball player, you have to get a hit, and there's no one that will help you. But the
Yeah.
team aspect is when you play defense. So that's primarily what I look at as the year of service is when you're a
Hmm.
team and you have every. Um, is that is that a fair way because
Yeah,
none of those
absolutely. For
girls,
most
are
girls.
you're not really competing with any of
Yeah,
those. You're competing with yourself. So I mean, you can strike
exactly.
out. You can strike
Hmm.
out if you just aren't prepared. So
Uh-huh. And pageants are in no way a team sport, but I also think it's important to have a team, have those people that you trust who are going through it with you because it can take such a toll on you emotionally, physically, mentally. Like it can be very difficult. So to have those people that you trust and you can fall back on, knowing that no matter whether or not you are in the same competition, not competing against each other, you have each other's back. I think that's something that's so special and so beautiful because some girls can get so insanely competitive, and that's why I love my Teen USA sisters too, because that's how we were. We said, at the end of this, only one girl's going to take it. So we better take something else and let's make that friendship.
well, we're really excited for your future, and
Thank
I
you.
personally am really rooting for you. So I
Oh,
really
thanks.
hope you only the best. So um, genuinely, genuinely, we really hope that you win, and I hope that your director will allow you to come on as Miss Nebraska to talk.
So,
So, and I would love the opportunity to interview the new Miss Nebraska. So I hope that we can make that happen too.
yes, we'll hopefully make it happen if it
Yeah.
happens next
Yes.
week.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samantha, for coming on the show. It's so awesome to hear from people all over the state and all over the country, and now to interview someone from Middle America, Nebraska. It just shows that pageantry is something that really can help you become a better person, and we're really well rounded, and it has made you the success you are. And look at all the things that she's achieved. In her short life, she's been adopted, which for some people could either put them behind the eight ball or ahead of the eight ball. But she's used all of the gifts that she's been given, and she's excelled. She's won two state titles in her short lifetime. She's also competed in dance, singing, and cheerleading. She's a very talented person and such an incredible interview. Such an inspiring person, and I really hope her only the best. I hope that her competition at USA went well, and we really hope to have her on the show again in the future talking about her future title opportunities. So, thank you so much, and we appreciate your time. Don't forget, guys, this show drops every Thursday. We would love for you to subscribe both on iTunes and on YouTube. Please give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Tell us what you think. We really appreciate your feedback. So please continue giving us ideas and feedback. And please toss us some guests if you have people that you think would be great for the show for interviews. We also have our movie review show called The Movie Breakdown. Our movie breakdown is a segment that we record when our schedules align with our co-host, Yvonne Carlos. We have several episodes in the can, so our idea is we're going to be releasing them sporadically through the schedule, so please stay tuned. Right now we have episodes out talking about Star Wars. We have episodes talking about Fight Club, so just check out those. We appreciate feedback and interest in those as well. We're also going to be covering the Golden Globes and Oscars this year. And of course, when it comes to pageant season, we're going to be covering Miss America USA and Universe. So you better stay tuned. Don't forget, Total Focus podcast always tries to drop if we have a guest on Thursday. So stay tuned and always subscribe and stay tuned.